Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at changing a chart using a series of option buttons in Microsoft Excel. To start off with, you're going to need the developer tab, so if you don't already have the developer tab on the ribbon, you're going to File and then Options. You'll go here to Customize Ribbon and just make sure in the second panel that you have a check mark by developer. That's really important. We're going to add our option buttons in here. So we're going here to the developer tab. We're going to open up insert, and it's really important here that you choose form controls. There are two sets of option buttons here. The ones you want are the form controls. I'm going to click on that to select it. I'm just going to drag here into my document, then right click and edit text. And for this one, we're going to make this the Canada data. And then we're going to go ahead and make two others. Now you can just copy this one, or you can go here and just reinsert a new one. Once you've done this, you can align and distribute these options. You're going to the Home tab of the ribbon. You're going to Find and Select, and you'll choose Select Objects. You can see that I've actually already added this to my quick access toolbar, just simply because it's really handy to have close. I've selected over my objects. I'm going to Shape Format. I'm going to align. I'm going to align them to the left, and I'm also going to distribute them vertically. You'll notice that once we've finished organizing these objects, when I click one of them, the other already clicked one is going to turn off. Now if you have multiple sets of option buttons on a worksheet, you're going to need to control them with a group, but because we've only got one set of option buttons here, any option buttons on this sheet are going to be part of this group, and so you're going to turn off any selected button as soon as you click one of the buttons. You're now going to right click any one of these buttons, it doesn't matter which. You're going to Format Control, and then you're going to the control panel here. What we have to do is we have to link the output for this. So we want a number according to which one of these buttons we have pressed, and we need to tell Excel which cell they're going in. So I'm going to do that up here in cell G1. So I'm just going to click here on cell G1, and I'll just click OK. And you'll see now that we have the number 1 here. If I go and click on California, we get 2, and West Coast we get 3. We can now use those numbers to control our chart. So the way that we're going to control the chart is we're going to have a second data area. So I'm just going to come here to cell H, just opposite the headings here, and I'm going to type an equal sign, and I want to bring in this cell here. So I'm going to press enter, and then I'm going to drag this across 4 more cells. So I should be bringing in all the headings from this data area. Now it doesn't matter that we can't see things clearly here, because ultimately these columns are going to be hidden. What I need to do next is to write an if function that's going to grab either Canada, California, or West Coast according to what is in this cell here. It's going to be an if function. So you're going to type the equal sign and then if and a bracket. And what we're going to say is if this cell contains the number 1 equals 1, then what we want in this cell here is Canada. So I'm just going to click here on Canada. And if it's not number 1, then we still have to work out whether it's number 2 or number 3. So we're going to type a comma, and then we're going to add another if test. We don't have to use the equal sign again here. We just type the word if, and then a bracket. And again, we're going to test if cell G1 equals the number 2. If it equals the number 2, then we want to bring in the word California. And if it's not 1 or 2, then the only thing left to bring in is West Coast. And then we're going to close this bracket, the one that is this if statement here, and then we have to close this bracket as well. So I'm going to add another bracket. If you don't put all the brackets on, Excel's going to pick that up, and it's just going to remind you. So I'm going to click enter, and so now we can see that this is going to work by changing the contents of this cell depending on which of these option buttons is selected. Now in an ideal world we would just copy this across, but it's going to fail because this cell G1, if I try and drag it to the cell next door, let's just go and do that, you'll see that it's changed to be H1, and we don't want that to be the case. So I'm just going to delete that, and we're going to make a minor change to this formula. What we're going to do is we're going to fix G1. So I'm just clicking in G1, and I can either put these dollar signs in by hand, or I can press the function key F4. And what that does is it says $G$1. So when I copy this function across, this formula across, G1 is not going to change. And we need to do that in two places here. So I've pressed the F4 key once, but this time I'm just going to put it in by hand, just $G, $1. That's all we need to do. I'm going to press enter. Now when I drag this across, we're actually going to get the numbers that correspond with the West Coast. And we can check that visually. We're just checking that these numbers are correct, and they are. So when I click on California, I should now have California's numbers. When I click on Canada, I should now have Canada's numbers. So all's looking good so far. The next thing is to create our chart. So actually don't want that 0 there, so I'm just going to delete that formula because this was an empty cell. We don't technically need it. So let's just drag over these cells and let's insert our chart. I'm just going to bring in a very, very simple column chart. I'm mindful that these columns are going to be hidden in a minute, so I don't want to put my chart where they're going to be hidden. I'm going to make a change to the formatting of this chart by just right-clicking, choose Format Data Series, and I'm going to make sure that these are colors varied by point, just so that we've got something a little bit more colorful in terms of our chart. Now let's test it. Let's go across here to California and you'll see that the chart readjusts, and this time it's showing us the California data and then the West Coast data. Now there is one problem with this that you might see, and that might be a problem for you. You can see that the chart value here, the top value is 400,000. Well, when we get to California, it's 700,000. When we get to Canada, it's back down to 300,000 because the values are different. But if we wanted to show these relative to each other so that we could click on California and just see how it related to Canada, then we could set this vertical axis to a fixed value for all of the charts. I'm going to select on this, I'm going to right click, I'm going to format axis. And what I'm interested in here is this maximum, and now it says exactly what I want it to say, but the trouble is that Excel's not going to listen to me, because if I change my chart to Canada, then this is going to read something completely different. So we're going to wipe this out and we're going to retype it. So again, I'm retyping 700,000, I'm clicking the close button. And now let's say that when we go to West Coast, you can see that the top value here is 700,000. So we can see relatively that California is doing so much better than the West Coast, and obviously doing so much better than Canada too. So there is our chart controlled by our option buttons, and all we're going to do at this stage is hide these columns, but we're about to get to a really big gotcha. Let's just select over these columns, let's right click and choose hide. And rather concerningly, what happens is we lose all the data from our charts. Now, if that happens to you, don't panic, because what you're going to do is you're just going to right click your chart and you're going here to select data. In the select data dialog, there's an option here for hidden and empty cells. Click it. And then what you're going to do here is click to show data in hidden rows and columns and click OK. And that brings everything back to where it should be, but please don't get all freaked out because the chart just disappears, because it is easily solvable. This is a really good option for including charts on dashboards to give your user control over what they see at any particular time. It's very easy to do, it doesn't involve any macros, and it is quite a straightforward process. If you like carefully researched content like this, clearly presented in a step-by-step format so that you can get great results every time, then you'll love my other YouTube videos. So give this video a thumbs up and click to subscribe to the channel. And on the screen now, you'll see a video that I've handpicked for you to watch next.